a animals farm. And like on the highway commercial property where they're growing crops, that's something that would be grandfathered in. That's what I'm making sure that that's what you're saying, correct?
Exactly, and we've taken all the suggestions from everybody, like we had suggestions on how to handle these open pit fire issues and open burn. We're trying to get it right. Now, that's not to say that the code enforcement board, when it actually starts working, is always gonna get it right, but then you guys can always tweak your nuisance ordinance. If somebody is doing it deliberately to harm this community, you can always fix it. But right now, the tools that your code enforcement officer have are relatively sparse now. I mean, there's just nothing to it. There's no teeth. So I'm really excited about it. Thanks for everybody's input. Everybody here has actually commented. Everyone has put something else in there that we've changed. So hopefully, the next second reading will get it right the way you guys want it, and you can put it on. Okay?
Question, Alex. Could the city council serve as the code enforcement board?
Absolutely not.
And the reason
It's separate, completely has to be a separate board. Statute requires it. So code enforcement is, and you don't want to be, you wouldn't want to, for the
I
reasons we
wouldn't,
talked
well,
about.
a city this size, I wouldn't think they'd be that big,
Yeah, code enforcement.
but it could be
board,
contentious.
it will be contentious.
Yeah.
Start putting fines on people's homes. It will be contentious. That's a tough job. So, any other questions on the nuisance code, or?
We're not in the business to harass people that's parked in the grass or on the sidewalk. We give them chances. We give them a business card, then a second a letter, and then if, they don't, change, that, what they've done and they're non-compliant, and then, we'll cite them, but we're definitely not gonna harass.
One of the things that I had to fill out was the auditor statement indicating if there was anything that we'd be concerned about. I suspect this time next year, you very well may have some litigation against the city for the parties that are being cited that are suing the city back, saying, no, I think it's gonna happen, it always does, because they have a chance to appeal it to a higher power, which is the circuit court. So just be prepared for it, because you will have people that are gonna resist the change. But the person that lives next to that pig farm or the junk car may very well be applauding. So it's gonna be an interesting experiment. Okay?
And if it gets to that point, do you go to represent the city, or is it,
What's that?
if it goes to circuit courts, that
We defend the city.
you would go and represent the city?
You got it.
Okay.
So as far as, it sounds like there's still a lot of discussion about this, but, so are we having a first reading, or are we, because we haven't determined yet how many hours for parking and a few things there. It sounds like to me we need to table it until we work out some of those details.
So the changes that we talked about are not substantive in nature, Jennifer, so that if you do want to continue to have discussion, now when you get into the major changes, like we're talking about the meat of it, not just like the hours, then it would be definitely something where I think you need to have another first reading, if you're not inclined to do the first one tonight. But from what I understand, I think there's 3 or 4, not major points by any means, but there's 3 or 4 things that you guys still need to kind of reconcile. We still need to fill in the blanks, but those are not substantive. So I think that if you guys are inclined, you can certainly try to pass it. It's up to you.
I would like to hold off on it until after our caucus meeting so we can discuss those things that we still have questions about.
A lot of good work, Alex.
But it is a lot of good work. I feel like there's still a few
I don't
things.
think we've ever had this broad input in any one document.
And you've added 3 more pages, so you've been doing your work.
I have a question about the parking. Am I allowed to ask or not?
Can we wait till the end? Yeah, keep it to the, what would you guys like to do? You wanna table this?
I'll make a motion to table it.
I think Jennifer had the motion.
All right, I'll second it.
Did Joe? Danny?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Arlene? Paula?
Yes.
Joe?
Okay, I was coughing and couldn't hear.
We're
To table
tabling
this
it.
till the caucus?
Yes.
Okay, peace, yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
The first reading of ordinance 281, 2019, this is the curfew ordinance.
Alex?
Do I need to read the whole document?
If I could just indicate where I changed it. The big one was the last page, which is the penalties. It was $50 on the first time. Now, $50 and then the first time, and then $100 for each subsequent offense. Those are all civil penalties. There's a distinction between A and B. A is a criminal penalty, which of course ultimately the prosecutor has jurisdiction over to decide on what they believe is appropriate. The second is a civil offense. So we've reduced it down so it doesn't automatically hit you the first time. If there's any input on that, if not, it's ready for passage, or for motions, excuse me.
So this would be if the police officer, cited them, that's where this would,
You got it,
okay. B, this would be,
you got it.
and it looks like we're gonna review it again after 12 months. The sheriff is gonna review it and see how effective it's been, and if it's practical to enforce it, and you're gonna give us some feedback on that. I like that.
I need a motion to, well, we don't have to make a motion tonight, that's the first reading.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
Alex?
I'm just jumping the gun, right? Yes, sir.
I want to see how the rest of the council feels on the last page with the penalties, section B. I'd like to add in there $50 or 50 hours of community service for the first offense, $100 or 100 hours.
That's too much.
Who's gonna do
That's
this?
too much.
Don't worry, we'll give them time to do it.
That's not too much for the parents of the child that just got caught that wants to teach them something.
Well, who's gonna enforce that? That would be,
Community
probably need
service.
to talk about that.
Um,
We don't wanna put them on the
Could you imagine?
Sleeping outside, that'd be a good job.
Oh, Lord, have
That would
mercy.
probably be something we'd have to do a
We're
little
gonna do that,
research
just up
on,
the
but
fee.
There's your
to
beautification
150
project.
or $200.
Well, I don't know how many hours it takes to wax a fire truck.
Are you gonna watch them?
and
Are you,
Alex,
you're babysitting now?
can we do that? Alex thinks we probably shouldn't do that.
If it turns, Todd, if it turns into a criminal, I mean, I prosecute part-time in Campbell County, and we do interesting things like that with juveniles. Danny, you probably know. You know, say to a juvenile, okay, you're home every Friday, and this is what you're gonna do, and this is your community service. It's effective, but let the judge do it, because they can put them in jail. We don't have that option.
Yeah, because we don't wanna police that.
No.
That's a lot of work. Not that it's not a good idea. Don't know how.
Probably need it.
Okay, next on new business, Walter, you wanna
Yes.
come on up and introduce yourself? You can stand there if you want to.
Walter Glover, been hired as the code enforcement officer. I was hired on October the 15th, and I've been using the time waiting to get my cards in by driving around the city, getting familiar with the streets and observing possible infractions and things like that. I got my cards on the 25th of October. I've been touring around. I made some contacts. I made 15 contacts. I patrolled 16 streets, and I actually spoke with 5 people and left my card with the rest, and the 5 that I talked to said they would comply with what I saw. So that's what I've done in October.
Thank you. We have Craig County Sheriff.
Up at 208 North Main, I noticed there's a silver Grand Amish kind of car that's been there for 3 or 4
Yeah,
days.
she broke down and a guy across the street said she could leave it there for a day or two, so we'll get the sheriff maybe to run that tag and see who that car belongs to and maybe get it towed.
I think it's there Tuesday or Wednesday.
Todd, you have anything to add?
I don't have have the numbers in front of me, but I know the sheriff put together numbers. Right now, we're 38 calls a day for service in the county. Our calls for service are up, just calls overall, are over 300 from what they were last year. Our reports that we actually take are up over 100 as of today. By the time the end of the year rolls around, we'll be over 200 to 300 more reports than we took last year. Our action reports are higher than they were before. We are in the process of hiring. I got the first phase back of the hiring process today, but we are also in the process of losing another officer. He has a second interview at another department up north next week. So we have the potential of being down 3 officers and having to send 4 to 5 officers to the academy. So it's a battle, you know, it's just a battle. It's just the way it is. It's the best I can tell you. We'll do the best we can, but just understand that we're gonna be 3 officers down and maybe 4.
You are aware that there was 3 break-ins in the last 2 weeks in Harvesters?
I believe so, yes.
What are we gonna do about that?
We're doing the best we can. If somebody calls us when they see suspicious people, I mean, I don't know that your ordinance will help that. I mean, we'll do the best we can to enforce the curfew. It is another undertaking that we'll have to take. It will take the deputy out of it. It could potentially take the deputy out of the city to do that. And, you know, we're looking at changing the shifts around and changing the manpower, trying to make the manpower work. Because the reality of the situation is that if we send two new deputies to the academy in January, they're not actually taking their first call until December of 2020. If we send the next 2 deputies in March, they're not actually taking their first call on their own till February of 2021. So it's a year process. So it's not a quick fix. There's no quick fix. We have no laterals, so it's not a quick fix.
I'm not saying you're not doing a great job when you are here. I'm saying maybe this council needs to consider other law enforcement for Crittenden. Just a recommendation.
What would that be?
I don't know, you tell me.
I didn't bring it up.
I heard Brian speak of this, and I was also at the Kentucky Association of Counties Conference this past week, and this is not just a local issue, this is a statewide and a national issue. People don't want to go into law enforcement anymore. It's my understanding it's hard to hire. You all can't get enough applications, and then they don't pass the criteria required for, and they make $1 more and move down the road. So it's not.
The officer that's looking to leave, the officer looking to leave is a $20,000 a year raise.
Yeah.
Walking in the door, it's 20 grand, more than he makes here.
So it's something I think, and also the other issue that I learned is that the Kentucky State Police has decreased their patrols in Grant County to 3 troopers, is that correct?
Kentucky State Police are not taking calls in Grant.
And they're not taking.
They are working
have
the
stopped.
interstate, and they're doing stuff like that, but as far as calls for service, unless the Grant County Sheriff's Department simply is too busy or has no units to send, and then it has to be an emergency, otherwise they will stack that call and wait for us to clear.
Right, that's what I heard. So,
And that's not a knock on them, they're just down too,
Right.
they're down manpower throughout the state, so it's just the way it is. We are definitely sending 3 to the academy, and if we lose another one where we're down 3, we're sending 4, so we're trying to go 1 up on what we're down. However, I have 2 officers that could walk in tomorrow and retire and walk away, full retirement. I have another officer that in 2 months could walk in and say, I'm out. You know, and I have one that's already told me in 2021 he's retiring. So it's a battle that we've got to battle. We have, you know, we have 6 candidates that just, their testing came back today. I was reading the results today. So hopefully we will be sending 2 or 3 of those next week to the second phase. The downside to that is the second phase, when you send them to the second phase of the hiring process, they have to have a conditional job offer on the table. And right now there's 1 slot in the January class. And in order for them to get that slot, they have to be background through phase 2, pass polygraph and drug screen, which takes about 2 more weeks to do. So, yes, sir.
Chief Deputy, would your deputies rather take a bunch of suspicious people calls than to take a burglary call?
I'd rather take suspicious person calls, yeah, if you call him.
So
You
we
call,
need to
we'll check
get-
them.
We gotta get people to start calling 911 when they see something. Also, I wanna, and this is for everybody on YouTube, Grant County is part of the Crime Stoppers up north. So if you see something, you can call Crime Stoppers on it. If you don't know anything about any past crime or any future crimes, then you might even get a reward. So we need to put that out on social media for the Crittenden website. Call Crime Stoppers, the 513 number, I'll get it. And call 911 if you see suspicious activity, and don't tell a police officer when he shows up, yeah, I saw him taking those stuff out, I just thought they were moving. Call the police.
That's true, and to address Ms. Lowry's concern, I mean, if you're talking about starting a police department again, that's a very expensive proposition. That, for what you pay the sheriff's department, you could not hire 3 full-time officers to do and pay their benefits. It's not gonna happen. Just throwing it out there. It's just,
Tell them to keep working, Tom.
again, I got a 15-year veteran that's walking out the door of the sheriff's department, going to another agency up north and getting a $20,000 raise, walking in the door at the new department. It's tough to compete with. Fiscal court's on board with us, they understand that, we're gonna make changes, increase the pay, try to better the benefits, try to compete, but it's just hard, we can't compete with Boone County, we don't have that kind of funds, okay, but we can make it a little bit more closer, make it a $5,000 or $8,000 gap versus a $20,000 gap, or a $10,000 gap versus a $20,000 gap. If we can do that, then we can at least compete, and the luxury of being at home versus driving up north,
I think at last night's meeting at fiscal court was an eye-opener.
Yes, it's just, I know, Danny knows, I did it for 21 years, driving north. The convenience of being home is a very good convenience. But when you're trying to you're looking at retirement, you're trying to better yourself, that $20,000, $25,000 a year raise betters your retirement. It's a no-brainer for guys that are trying to
Any chance
set
that
up their
Driver
retirement.
Edge or Williamstown could jump on board like we do? We, contract out with the sheriff's department and get these guys more money that they would stay? Or can you do a contract with anyone?
And I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. Williamstown's out, they've got one in the academy right now, he's been in the academy, but, we're gonna send 3 to the academy, maybe 4. If I could I'd send all 6 if I could get the physical court to do it, if they all pass the background.
How about
That's
a
just the
grant,
money.
would it save the Driver Edge any money?
You can't, like I said, like he's saying, they're just not there. Matt Hicks, we have hired Matt Hicks, he retired from Independence. He come down looking for a job, one other job. So, yeah, we hired him. 2 months in, he comes in and says, man, I gotta go. Taylor Mill, he made, I think his salary at Driver Edge part-time was, I don't know, it was like $32,000 or something. They offered him $64,000, 4 weeks paid vacation, and 10 sick days with a car.
They have the
How can you
finances to do that, because.
So,
of the-
so we can't do that,
Right,
he can't do that,
right.
And we can't do that.
and you can't do that.
Right.
So, and he done retired from Independence, and he's now gonna make $65,000, all the overtime he wants, a car, 4 weeks paid vacation, and 10 sick days. So you have no way of competing with that.
We can do it, we just have to raise taxes, nobody wants that, so,
Anyway,
yeah.
True, and like I said, we can't pay the money they pay up north. I realize, the sheriff realizes that, you just can't do it, we don't have the money. But we've gotta do something to make it a little bit more competitive, where it's a tougher decision to go up north for that money. If it's a $10,000 raise, you may not make that drive, but at $20,000, you're gonna make that drive. So we are working towards it, as best we can, and we'll do the best we can. And like Danny said, if you see something suspicious, call us. We're out here, we may not be right there within 2 minutes, but, unfortunately, this county is 247 square miles. When you're in Corinth, it's a long way to get here to Crittenden. It just is. But we'll do the best we can. If you see something, call us. And we'll respond and get here as quickly as we can and do what we can.
We appreciate what you are.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Thank you.
Hey, Todd,
Yes.
possibly have had any inside track on the election results yet?
I should have said that while I was standing up there.
Chief,
If you want me to tell you the results, I can't tell you the results of the write-in ballot, I don't know the results of anything else. The write-in ballots were Todd Roberts, 137, Fred Spainer, 95. That, from what the sheriff said, that's with all the votes counted.
Good job, Tom.
thanks to all who applied for the election. Also, we have fire department chief, Weaver.
All right, folks, if you look in front, I gave you each the readout. I was able to get the reports for September and October. All numbers are correct, double checked. There was a question that I overheard Ms. Paula talk about the respiratory distress, and we are getting in that time of year. Once school starts taking up again, now the kids are going in and they're spreading everything and sharing it back and forth. They take it home to mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, and next thing you know, everybody's feeling icky. However, I have a concern this year about the flu. It seems like we are having a blossom of flu cases earlier than what we normally experience. My grandson, who normally doesn't catch anything, now has a raging case. I'm just waiting for my turn. So the immunizations are out there for it. I do suggest you get a flu shot. I think I may have to follow my own advice. Just realized that. But you feel bad for a couple of days, but then it saves that big illness that you can get down the road. Also, I want to point out, this next coming week, we're going to have our first real cold spell. Possibility of rain, some freezing rain and snow showers. Folks, we've been used to driving in summer, spring, and warmer than usual October. Road conditions have been wonderful. But when the first rain started coming, the wrecks started occurring. The first time we had a cold snap with snow, we had a huge influx of traffic accidents because people overestimate what their cars are able to do. So please, when the rain starts hitting, the temperatures start dropping, look for sudden snaps where you're going to get ice developing, and just slow down, take the time.
Lee, could I ask you a question, and I'll like Officer Mullins to respond to. There was a huge accident on the new paved area where 4 cars hydroplaned right at Dry Ridge, where the new pavement occurs going toward Williamstown.
Between the 163 and the 159,
Yeah,
we had a series of about
just
4
by
or
the
5
grace of God, my wife was right behind those cars that hydroplaned, and her non-expert opinion was that the new pavement wasn't nearly as permeable as before, and is holding water where it pools, that promotes hydroplaning. Have you guys seen that? And is it a bigger accident waiting to happen?
Because I was out that day and I was working accidents, it just rained so hard, so fast, people did not adjust their speeds, as he just said. They're still driving 75 miles an hour, and it's pouring down rain, and you just got to slow down.
So it wasn't in your
I
opinion,
didn't see that
it's not the
bad.
nature of
No,
the
I didn't
design,
think
it was the nature of the increased rain and
They were driving too fast.
crazy folks, yeah.
I can tell you that on the northbound side, from the 161 to the 164, we call Crash Alley.
Yeah.
And there's often a joke that when the rain starts pouring pretty hard, might as well go ahead and park out there because we're going to be there. The southbound that day, it seemed like the 163 was the place to not be, but everybody ended up. We had enough rain falling for the first time in several weeks, and those oils lift off the highway that had been accumulating for a couple of weeks. We were receiving rain at a rate of 1/2 of an inch an hour. And therefore, an hour and a half, it was nasty out there to where even the ambulance was having a little bit, I mean, that thing's a wee beastie. And it was doing some floating. So if that ambulance was able to find some hydroplaning problems, smaller cars just don't have a chance. I don't think it was so much of the road, I think it was drivers overestimating the abilities of their automobiles for the road conditions and the weather we were experiencing.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Another thing is that we just got through with our Halloween. For everybody that was there, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Fred was there, Todd, several of the other council persons. We had a hoot. We had a hoot. 750 hot dogs were given out. We sold quite a few cancer support t-shirts. We also got 7 applications. I'm hoping that 4 of them work out. But for those of you who were not there, you missed a free hot dog and some fun.
Lots of kids.
We will continue this next year. Yeah, especially with everybody playing Mug the Chief. Somebody yelled, "Get the chief," and the next thing I know, I had 35 kids climbing on me. It was fun. So to everybody that supported us, came out, wished us well, thank you very much. And we'll do it again.
Those kids love those hot dogs.
Yes, they
They
do.
were really.
Great to be popular.
And we sure made sure that we didn't have any leftovers. Have you seen the size of my guys lately?
Anyone in the public would like to make a statement or ask a question or have a comment? Ms. Horn, did you have a question?
Well, it seems weird to have to go back to something you've already discussed and moved on, but it's the parking issue. We live on Lehigh, which is in the city. There's a sign that says no parking on the street. We own 3 vehicles. We have a double driveway. So obviously the third vehicle has to be on the grass. I mean, we don't have a choice. And then if you put in the 72 hours, our kids lives in South Carolina. They come in for a week vacation and stay with us. That puts another one on the grass because we're not allowed to park on the street. We cannot park on either side of the street.
You live in a duplex?
Yes. So that really puts us in a bind on, if you all pass this,
Do you have a
we're
homeowner-
gonna be,
Do you have a homeowners association where you live? I'm
No.
not familiar.
no.
If you all got a homeowners association in your community and your.
Well, that would be up to we're renting, so that would be up to the
I was gonna
owner.
say, you all could change it where you could possibly maybe park on the street.
Or
at
park
least
on one
of the
side,
street.
give us one side. I mean, I don't know that sign was there when we moved in, so I don't know why that sign, and there's only one on the whole street that's right in the middle of our yard. So, I mean, we're gonna be, he's gonna be at my door every day, because we won't have a choice. So anyway, I wanna throw that out. Number 2, the banners, the veterans, I'm 100% for that. I have a big heart for our veterans. I think that is just the least we can do, and we need to be doing a lot more for our veterans. And I had something else, but I can't now remember. So I'll quit.
You're right.
Debbie, did you have something to say? Tonight?
Oh, I was just asking, I was talking to some of the different ones about the city beautification committee. Now, who do I see about that?
The mayor.
Oh, okay.
What was that?
I was just asking about the city beautification. I was talking to somebody here one day about the city beautification. I just wanted to be a part of that if I could volunteer my
The mayor
time.
does the committees, the commissioners, the boards. We're getting a beautification committee. Any of the council would like to sit on it. Anybody in the community, I'm sure the more the merrier. And get that going.
I would like to see Crittenden get a garden club, like Fort Wright has, where the residents of Fort Wright have a garden club, and they call them the Dirty Hands, if you remember that, Alex, and all kinds of, the residents, they have a swap meet, and they use that money, and then they end up putting their own flowers in the neighborhoods of the city, and the city doesn't have to pay for anything. It's called, look it up on the internet, it's called Fort Wright Garden Club, the Dirty Hands Club, and then they have an award for the best yard of the month, and they put the sign in there and all happy about it. You gotta take pride in your stuff.
Yeah, I was wanting to talk about the dumpster you was talking about. The best case scenario, anytime they go in and do these things is 10% is the best was ever recycled. It's really a waste of money. There's nobody, the companies are quitting doing it because nobody is paying for the stuff, the recycle equipment. It's gotten to be nothing more than put it in the green bin, it goes to the landfill. And it doesn't cost any extra money. So personally, I object to having a dumpster and then to move the cameras and put it here by the city building.
Cameras are already there. So
They still have to be adjusted to view that. And then they take away from security on the place, yes. Then you're gonna have to pan them and do something different. But what I'm saying is, it's a waste of money. Anything we would put in for it would be a waste of cash for the very reason I said. Best case was 10%.
it's not anymore.
And that's usually 90-some% of that 10% was newspaper.
They're not buying.
No, they're not buying, there's nobody, and it goes to a landfill. So you're paying extra money, you can put it in your blue
Who's
cans.
paying it? The city's not paying it, sir.
Who's paying it? Somebody, the county is, someone is.
Right, the county's paying it, and it's a
County's paying
service.
it.
that
Yeah, but
we're
it's
entitled
still,
to.
why would you get involved with it?
Because
What?
people want it, people are asking for it.
Because it makes them feel
Then let them
good.
get, we can have, I want a car, I go buy a car. I wanted a home in Crittenden, I had one built here. If they want it, they can go pay for it. Why should I, or you, or someone who doesn't want to, have to pay for it?
You don't have to
They
pay
have
for it.
cameras in the park, and that's a county, the county pays for all that, they get the money from the park.
Right,
It comes
the
in.
county can take care of it if they just feel they have to do it. But I really think it's a mistake, that's my opinion.
They want Crittenden to, if somebody gets hurt on that dumpster or what have you, then.
Anything can go on, and then like, being told that if you put something in and it's considered contaminated, well, they're gonna contaminate every load. The guy throw a coffee cup in there and it's contaminated.
Mayor, do you have problems with contamination in Dry Ridge? No.
Thank you all.
Anybody else? No. The next regular caucus meeting is Tuesday, December 26th at 6 p.m. And the next regular council meeting is Tuesday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
8:45 p.m.
Have a good night.